Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Reigning WBA Super Flyweight Champion Clara Lescurat of Argentina was in action in Australia on the road, and as I predicted, as I expected, she was able to successfully defend her WBA title against...
This was yesterday.
Against Lynn Sandstorm of Australia on the undercard of Nikita Zhu's fight.
That's what I told you. Lynn Sandstorm wasn't ready for that fight.
She wasn't.
Any two fighters that have the same or close to the same number of fights, that doesn't necessarily mean they're in the same place in terms of their ability, their overall skills.
Say it all the time. There's more to boxing than what you see on paper, and perhaps Lynn Sandstorm's team felt that she might be ready for a fight with Clara because Clara doesn't have that many more fights than she does. But to the eye, Clara is a more put-together fighter than Lynn Sandstorm. They didn't have to jump right into a fight like this straight away, but they did, and they paid for it. Now Clara Lescurat remains WBA champion, advancing to a record of 11 wins with no losses, no draws, and 4 knockouts, one of 4 champions at this weight.
And this was her 4th successful defense of the WBA title.
She won the title from then champion Maribel Ramirez close to 2 years ago in June of 2022, and she's seen action 4 times since then.
To this year.
Controversial decision win over Regina Chavez in February of this year, and yesterday's fight with Lynn Sandstorm, leaving Clara Lescurat plenty of time to schedule other fights with other fighters.
Champions.
But who should she fight moving forward? Natural suggestion would be to pursue the other champions at this weight, of which there are 4. The problem with that suggestion is that neither Clara or those champions are with a major promotional outfit that could incentivize these champions to fight each other.
Money.
The problem is money, that none of the 4 champions at this weight have a major promoter behind them to put up the money to pay for a unification match. So all the champions seem happy to stay separate and away from each other until somebody steps in with a lot of cash to make something happen. That's the bane of the super flyweight division, really, that it's a very deep division with a lot of champions and a lot of contenders and a lot of unbeaten up-and-comers that are coming through.
But very few of these fighters have a major promoter. You know, Jasmine Parr, who was in action on the same card as Clara Lescurat, it seems that she's got something going on with No Limit Promotions. She fought on the same card as Clara.
She fought yesterday. She recorded her first knockout, but I think she's only about 5-0 at this time. 21 years old. It could be a while before they put her in a world title situation. That's saying that maybe No Limit Promotions has the money to make something happen and draw a champion out to their neck of the woods. But at this time, for that fighter, well, that fighter's not ready yet to be in a situation like that.
If Lynn Sandstorm wasn't ready yesterday, young Jasmine Parr is not going to be ready today. Ready for a Clara Lescurat, a Mizuki Hiruta, an Ashley Gonzalez, or an Irma Garcia.
You think about Shannon Ryan, unbeaten up-and-comer Shannon Ryan, who I think is very special, and she's going to be returning to action very soon in what is the rescheduled fight with Emma Dolan. Could be a few fights before Shannon is ready to fight for a full alphabet title against a full champion, even though she's with Matchroom.
Matchroom's got the money.
Yeah, of course they could pay one of these champions to voluntarily defend their title against their charge, but their charge isn't ready for a fight like that. Not yet.
So you see what the problem is.
This is a hot division that could heat up in the next year or so, but at this time, what's preventing unification matches from happening between champions is that none of them are with a major promotional outfit, and the few fighters that are, they're not ready to fight for alphabet titles.
So things are going to stay divided in the women's super flyweight division for the foreseeable future, the near future.
For the time being, they are, because there's just not enough money flowing through this division to bring it consolidation. Congratulations to Clara Lescurat for successfully defending her WBA title earlier this week, but it's a fight that flew largely under the radar.
Most fights at this weight do.
It's the way it is, at least right now. In men's super middleweight news, or I should say, light heavyweight, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh has revealed that he has plans in mind for both Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez, but not fighting each other. He said he wants Benavidez to challenge the Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol winner and would like to make Canelo versus Terence Crawford.
It's a possibility.
Though many things are distinct possibilities at this time, when it comes to Crawford, we know what he's about to do. He's about to fight Israel Madrimov, and on the undercard of that fight, Tim Tszyu and Virgil Ortiz will be facing each other for what is now WBA interim status.
The winner of that fight becomes the mandatory challenger for the winner of Crawford versus Madrimov. So how do we know that Crawford doesn't end up fighting them and not Canelo Alvarez? That if we're talking about a Canelo Alvarez fight, how soon can we expect that to happen based on what is already going on?
The whole incentive to move that high up in weight for Terence Crawford to take on Canelo Alvarez is the big payday, but I'd wager he's already getting a big payday right there at 154 for the Madrimov fight, and I'm sure that the Saudis can continue to make it worth his while at 154 to where he doesn't have to go to 168 for a big purse.
That was the whole point. The Canelo Alvarez fight was the best money around, but now that Turki Al-Sheikh is making this investment, maybe Crawford don't gotta go all the way up there.
It's a fluid situation. Now, as it pertains to David Benavidez, the other aforementioned fighter, the other affected party, it seems that Turkey is holding to his original interest as it pertains to this fighter. He's interested in putting him in there with the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol.
That's what he said before, that's what he's still saying now.
Over the weekend, on Saturday, the same day as Garcia versus Haney, Gervonta Davis took it upon himself to officially announce his upcoming fight with Frank Martin, where, on the undercard, David will be facing Alexander Gvozdyk, as previously reported.
We already knew.
At least on the face of it, David is still making his way to the winner of that fight. The fight with Alexander is for WBC interim status, whereas the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol would be the undisputed champion, whoever it is, Artur, Dmitry, whoever.
So he's on his way.
The wheels, as they say, are in motion, and the interest, the finance, the money to make it happen, it's all there. It's all in play. I just really wonder if this is what David wants. Is this what he really wants?
Interesting tweets from what was his strength and conditioning coach, Memo Heredia.
The good people at Fight Hype posted a screenshot from Memo to their YouTube page. A screenshot that reads, "For those that keep asking me every day, I am no longer with Benavidez David. We, Team Memo Time, decided not to be part for this camp due to many reasons and circumstances. Check my interview later this week."
When asked about it via his X account, Memo said, "I split and I decided not to be part of this fight."
The Gvozdyk fight.
Stop twisting my words.
Who's twisting his words?
Memo continued saying, his father, David's father, is a piece of shit. Follow my interview soon.
That sounds familiar. I've long felt that Jose Benavidez, David's father, he talks too fucking much.
Is that why Memo's not with them anymore?
I'm not sure. All the specifics and all the details of what looks to be Memo's departure from Team Benavidez, we don't know what they are yet. We have to wait. But at minimum, we can see he's not going to be with him for this fight with Alexander Gvozdyk.
Why not?
My opinion? It's because he won't need any of Memo's infamous Memo shakes to make 168 for this fight.
David's going up to 175. Listen, Memo Heredia has the same sketchy past, the same sketchy history as Victor Conti.
Same racket.
That's why it's no coincidence that in many ways they have the appearance of professional rivals. Maybe it's because that's what they were, that's what they still are. And my honest opinion is if Angel was in David Benavidez's camp, it's because he was supplying him with the necessary synthetics to continue to make 168. But now that he's moving up to 175, he doesn't need Memo anymore.
Or at least his team doesn't think they need Memo anymore. That's just me bouncing ideas around.
What are the implications of David Benavidez not having his strength and conditioning coach in his camp for this Gvozdyk fight? He is venturing into unfamiliar territory against a more game opponent than any opponent he's faced so far. Yeah, Gvozdyk is a former champion like Caleb Plant is a former champion, but he's a bigger guy with a stronger punch.
Stronger than any of those guys that David pounced on at 168.
And to make matters worse, even though he's a stronger fighter than any fighter that David has fought so far, he's not actually a brute. He's not actually a lumbering lummox. No, he's got more size than those guys and more power, but he can actually move and punch. He can actually box.
So when I hear about all these future plans that might involve David and the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol or anybody else, I just keep wondering, is he going to actually make it past Alexander Gvozdyk?
Is he going to win that fight? Does he win that fight without Memo Heredia and his infamous Memo shakes?
What are you implying?
That Memo's been supplying him with peds. I don't got no hair on my tongue. I think at some point it became too difficult for David to keep making 168, so he hired Memo to get the necessary synthetics to keep making it. That's what I think.
But now that he's moving up, someone's made an executive decision that they don't need Memo anymore because he's going to 175.
Which, comparatively, is easier to make than 168. Though when a guy is as big as David, what is he, 6'2", 6'3", walks around somewhere
2 and change?
200 pounds? Yeah, getting down to 175 might be difficult too. I mean, look at Devin Haney. Devin's only been at 140 for 2 fights, and already in the second fight, it started to be difficult.
Making the weight.
Only 2 fights into his super lightweight campaign, and then I look over at David, how much size he puts on in between fights, and yeah, making 175 is easier to make than 168, but is it easy overall?
Will it be?
It's intriguing. It's honestly the most interest I have in that entire show, that entire card, Davis versus Martin. What is the main event? I'm actually more interested in David's fight.
And just in keeping with the theme of all things light heavyweight, former WBA super middleweight champion turned light heavyweight contender Callum Smith urges showboating star Ben Whittaker to be more respectful.
Some people like his antics, some people don't.
Though what is clear is that Ben Whittaker does this often enough in a boxing match that some people are starting to talk. Some are saying positive things, some are saying negative things. Smith, in a recent interview with Simon Jordan on the Upfront podcast, discussed Whittaker, with Jordan asking Smith for his opinion of the light heavyweight talent. Smith felt Whittaker was disrespectful and accused the Olympian of attempting to emulate Prince Nassim Ahmed too much. Ben Whittaker's antics aren't my cup of tea, said Smith. He's trying to be like Nassim Ahmed, but Nas was doing it at Madison Square Garden in world title fights, not against journeymen. I think Whittaker is a great talent and a very good fighter who I do think will go to the top. He just needs to do the basics a bit better and get rid of his opponents.
It comes off as overkill.
I'm careful with this subject because oftentimes you hear it said that it's not enough to win. You have to win in memorable fashion, spectacular fashion. So perhaps in Ben Whittaker's mind, going out there and performing these tricks and these hijinks and these dance moves,
That's his way of trying to leave a lasting impression?
if he can do that at the highest level, with all of his showboating as well, then fair play. At the moment, he's only doing it against journeymen who have finished their day's work and then gone to be opponents for him. They're there to help him out, not to beat him. I think it is disrespectful.
What's he saying?
That of course you're going to be able to shake and shimmy with what are part-time boxers and journeymen, no hopers, but that's not actually what they're there for, and that's not what you're there for. You're supposed to be developing.
That's essentially what Callum Smith is saying.
Whittaker's antics caused controversy against Leon Willings at the O2 Arena in London last month after he became embroiled in an in-ring exchange with Willings' trainer, who took offense to the Olympian's showboating. Whittaker was also verbally warned by referee Sean McAvoy. And I guess, if it's getting to the point to where the referee's gotta call your attention for it, perhaps you're doing too much. Too much showboating and not enough boxing.
Sean told him to behave himself and be more respectful.
I think he, Ben Whittaker, should just go about his business at the moment, but talent-wise, he is a very good fighter and will go to the highest level, Smith added. He is well known now compared to the other Olympians because of his character, and although he is showboating, he is also putting on good performances. So who am I to tell him to stop?
Some people want him to.
I remember one of the commentators on Sky Sports, I forget the guy's name, he called Ben Whittaker's attention on it, and Ben didn't like that.
There's something about it being skilled and not being skillful, whatever it was.
Myself, as a consumer, as a boxing fan, I don't have much of an appetite for showboating and trash talking, that kind of gamesmanship. I think there's a time and a place, and the context matters more than anything. That if you are going to showboat, let it be against someone who's formidable and not a journeyman, not somebody who's essentially there to lose, there to be an opponent for you, because that's really not impressive.
Well, for me, it's not entertaining.
Because if you've got time to shake and shimmy, then you've got time to put some punches together. And that's what we're here to see. We're here to see you brutalize the other guy. Not do the Cabbage Patch or the latest Fortnite dance.
I thought you said you weren't going to be critical.
I'm not. That's just what I think. That's just what I think about it, with the understanding that where maybe it's not my cup of tea, it might be someone else's, and to someone else, that might endear Ben Whittaker to them, even if it's not my cup of tea.
I think there's a video of Ben Whittaker doing some of those hijinks that went viral.
So where one person might say that they don't really like that stuff and they don't like to see Ben playing with his food like that, if it's raising his profile, if it's getting him attention in other quarters to where most fighters in this early stage of their careers are not known to a casual audience,
There's good in that.
I'm not gonna be impressed by it at this level. That's the main gripe. I'm not gonna be impressed that you're shaking and shimmying with no hopers.
No, even at world level. When Chris Eubank Jr. was posturing, playing with his food in the Liam Williams fight after he had already knocked him down, was it once or twice?
He had already established that he could hurt that guy, so I'm waiting for the knockout. And instead of the knockout, I get showboating. I get posturing. I'm not a fan of that.
I might not be, but somebody else might.
Thus, I'm ambivalent. I see the virtue in what Ben Whittaker is doing, even though I myself am not a fan of it.
Doesn't do it for me.
For me, it seems like a waste of time. Though becoming a star in the sport of boxing, it really isn't an exact science to where all you have to do is win a belt, win some belts, or win some fights, and suddenly you're a superstar. If this kind of stuff enhances Ben's profile,
If he can reach an audience, a younger one, outside of boxing with these shenanigans, I mean, I guess it's all right.
I guess I can see the good in that.
I'd be more impressed to see him get rid of these fucking guys.
For me, that would be more impressive, the way that, Artur Beterbiev did when he was coming through. But then again, that's Artur Beterbiev, and everybody isn't Artur Beterbiev.